Morning. I'd like to welcome you to the December meeting of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that the board meeting is being live streamed. And with that, I will turn to Chair Hardy.
And good morning. At this time, I'd like to call the December 11th, 2024 LCTCS Board of Supervisors meeting to order. This time, I will ask Supervisor Burke to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would ask Ms. Poole to please conduct the roll call to establish quorum.
Yes, sir. I would be happy to do so. Chair Hardy
Present.
is present. Supervisor Smith is present. Supervisor Toops
Present.
is present. Supervisor Burke is present. Supervisor Butler McIntyre is absent. Supervisor Hall is present. Supervisor Hogan is present. Supervisor Hollins is absent. Supervisor Johnson, he is present. He is not in the room with us at the moment, but I will let you know when he returns, Chair Hardy. Supervisor Lee is present. Supervisor McConduit is absent. Supervisor Moody is present. Supervisor Mount is present. Supervisor Price is present. Supervisor Salath is present. Supervisor Ardoin is present. Supervisor Eli is present. Chair Hardy, at this time, we do have an established quorum, and I will let you know when other folks arrive.
Thank you. And at this time, I would ask Ms. Poole whether there has been any request for public comment related to one of the enumerated agenda items on today's meeting agenda. And let me remind you that public comment must be related to a specific agenda item.
No, sir, we have not received public comments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This time, I request a motion to approve the December 11th, 2024 meeting agenda.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Toops, seconded by Supervisor Salath.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, stands approved. Next item, I request a motion to approve the October 9th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Motion by Supervisor Toops, seconded by Supervisor Mount.
Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. This time I present the consent agenda items for consideration by the board.
Sir, Mr. Chair, staff recommends that the board approve the consent agenda, which consists of agenda items G1 through G8.
Okay, can we get one motion?
Is there a motion?
Motion by Supervisor Toops, seconded by Supervisor Mount. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, approved. At this time, I will provide a brief chair report to the board. We are expecting Secretary Susan Bourgeois when she comes in. I will likely interrupt the meeting. She's on a tight schedule, so she will present as well. But what I'd like to talk about briefly is a function that was held. It was the Black Caucus Chairman's reception at the Bayou Classic that I attended. I've got to tell you, and I'm going to have Chancellor Taylor talk a little bit more about it. It was very well attended. Public officials, Congressman-elect, folks in higher ed, people from the community. I hate to say this, but I will say it publicly. I was pleasantly surprised. It was very well done. And I think this is a way we forge relationships with members of the legislature, with people of the community. At times when, when there's nothing controversial going on, you have a chance to build those relationships. So I think it went very, very well. And I'm going to ask Chancellor Taylor, would you mind coming to the front and talking a little bit about the sponsors and sort of how this came about?
I believe Chancellor Taylor may have stepped out of the room. Apologize.
Well, let's see if we can find it.
Yes.
Somebody text that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, while we have a brief moment, I can't help but look to my right and see a familiar face sitting in the audience, and Will Wainwright. President, it is great to see you today. Thank you for being with us. It's funny how you always sit in the same place though, right? It's like, it's routine, huh?
Sure.
That's right, just like in church.
Human nature, human nature.
That's right.
Well, what we're waiting on, Chancellor Taylor, Dr. Sullivan, why don't you go ahead with your report?
Sure, sure.
And since we're doing things a little bit out of order today,
That'll be great.
that fits right with what we're doing.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the president's report, and Chancellor Taylor will have a bit in this one as well. But I'd like to begin, if we can, with our friends from the Office of Juvenile Justice. We were approached, I guess, probably almost record time, right? Back in about September, October. We had a conversation at the board office. I want to thank Supervisor Stevie Smith, who was with us in that discussion, and being able to advance the effort in a way that allows us to have broader impact with juveniles. We know that the work that goes on in the Office of Juvenile Justice is some of the most difficult work to be found anywhere. But we have partners out there who are working every day to try to make sure that our young people have an opportunity to get things right, perhaps after things haven't gone so well. So with that, I'd like to begin by asking Deputy Secretary Lofton and Mr. Carter, if you will, both to come forward to the table, and we'll have an opportunity to present just briefly on the elements of the agreement. And one of the things that I want to share with the board is just the pace at which this happened. I think it's really important that when people sit down and have a common interest to try to do well by others, we can make that happen quickly. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ms. Lofton.
Thank you. I appreciate the speed at which y'all moved. Y'all were on record time, and we had a need. We talked to y'all about the need to try to get our kids in our young people in the vocational program and the community college program. Y'all acted great. Matter of fact, it's been wonderful for us. We have people, kids in Nunez going on Fridays. They've already completed a class in welding. Next semester, I think we're looking at welding and maybe some culinary. And y'all are coming into our facilities, so it's a great relationship with us. We have kids online, and I look forward to online going to college. And so I look forward to it as we go forward to enhancing that, improving it, and expanding it. Our kids are, for some people, it's a way to a new job. Our kids, it's a way to a new life, their lifestyle, so their future. So for us, it's about changing them. And so y'all have been a big part of that already, and I think it's just going to grow and expand as we go along. And so I commend you and thank you for your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we look forward to bringing back to the board the results of the great work that is going on. Let me just ask, any questions from the board members?
You have some comments?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. They told me to press that button. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank you guys again for the support you're giving us. I did a report recently to another commission.
I'm sorry, just for identification, you just state your name for the record. Your name it.
Alfred Carter, assistant to the deputy secretary. Did a report recently, and one of the things that jumped out in our presentation was a number of our kids that's in programs and in future programs. And I think a lot of folks were surprised. We even had a comment from one of the welding instructors who said how these young men that were in these classes, the respect they gave, the commitment they gave, and the way they were focused in on what they were doing really impressed him. So we're definitely looking forward to expansion, but we appreciate it so much. Like the secretary says, some people go to these schools and get education for a change in life, but these can be life-changing experiences for these young folks. Thank you again.
For these youths to get out of the correction system and into contributing member of society. So this is a very good thing for us to be involved with, frankly.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, sir. Well,
Me.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Very, very much appreciate all those. That, if I can, Mr. Chair, I'll turn back to you for chair.
Excuse me,
report.
Chair Hardy, I'd like to note for the record that Supervisor McConduit has joined us.
Thank you. Getting back to the chair report, I'm excited to have Louisiana Department of Economic Development Secretary here with us. I have to tell you, I don't go to a function where Governor Landry speaks where he does not have all kind of plaudits and accolades for Secretary Bourgeois. You're a rock star here in Louisiana. I would ask that you come to the table, tell us a little bit about Project Sucre and anything else you want to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a lot of rock star pressure. I will say that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate your leadership also. Chairman Hardy and I have been meeting since I think week 1 of me taking this role. So I appreciate that very much. So yeah, so last week we had a really exciting announcement, not for LED, not for North Louisiana, but for all of Louisiana. It's really a remarkable accomplishment on a number of fronts. I hope all of you saw the press, but I'll tell you in the big picture what has been publicly announced about the project. Meta has selected North Louisiana, a site in Richland Parish, to build their largest ever AI processing center, data center. They have committed to at least 500 permanent jobs, 5,000 to 6,000 construction jobs, a minimum of a $10 billion investment in the project. The state owned 1,400 acres of land. And we called it the Franklin Farms mega site. It was the only site LED owned to market this way. Not only is the company using all 1,400 of those acres, they've also purchased already an additional 800 acres and will continue to do so to have the ability to expand what is going to be, as they describe it, their largest AI center in the world. So remarkable announcement for Louisiana, but really an exciting piece for us is that this is something we've been working on for 10 months. And Monty has been with us from day 1 on what we needed to do to position this system to be able to educate and train the workforce they would need, not only for that facility, but for everything else that will come. And the AI space, it's here, it's happening. Louisiana is going to be a leader in that. And so I'm just incredibly grateful already for what Monty has done to be able to position y'all to get ahead of that. And there's more to come.
Thank you. Are there questions?
Mr. Chair, go ahead. I'm sorry. Supervisor Hogan?
I just have a comment to say this is really big for the state of Louisiana, but as someone from the northeast part of the state, the excitement in the communities around that area is just unbelievable. And so this is really going to impact the state in a very positive way. So thanks to everyone that had a part of that. We appreciate it.
If I can, I just want to say, Secretary Bourgeois, we'll have you as a supervisor if you'd like, by the way. I heard one of the members that spoke last Wednesday said something that really stuck out to me about your work and your leadership. And it was, there's a new sheriff in town. Louisiana has an economic developer, folks, and that is what we have lacked for so long. We need someone who's out there selling Louisiana every day in every part of the world, and there is no better person to do that than you. So we are very proud of the relationship and all the great work you have going on.
And I said this at the announcement. Thank you. Not only has Monty been by our LED side from the beginning. One of the ways I used to describe our work at the department since I got there in late January is a whole of government approach. But what we realized with this project is this actually a whole of Louisiana approach. We had the private sector involved in this. This was not just government. This wasn't multiple agencies. It was certainly not just LED. This was a whole of Louisiana approach. And I think you heard that at the announcement that across the board, all of Louisiana is now pulling on this rope in the same direction. And because of that, we will see very different outcomes. Right.
Other questions? Well, Madam Secretary, let me just thank you. I know you're on a tight schedule, so making yourself available today means a whole lot to us. keep up the great work. Anything we can do to accentuate it, please let us know. And, you know, you and I will continue to be talking.
We will. We will. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much. And oh, great. Okay, and also returning to the chair report, as I was saying earlier, the affair that we held during the Bayou Classic, the reception for the chair, it was just, again, remarkable. And he's an Energizer bunny because he was out taking care of something else when I called him. At this time, Chancellor Taylor, will you come up and talk a little bit about the sponsorships and what a wonderful affair we had. The biggest problem I think you've got is, I think the expectation is this is not going to be a one-timer.
Yeah, no, I think you're correct, Supervisor and Chair. Thank you so much, Dr. Sullivan, members of the board. Dr. Smith, you want to join me, please? So, again, good morning, everybody. Thank you. I apologize for being out front. So in recent conversations, the chancellors, we've been talking about how can we provide our president and our board more support in the area of advocacy. And so in those conversations, we felt like we needed to be more engaged at a deeper, more intentional level with all of the various caucuses across the board. And so there was an opportunity for us to host the Legislative Black Caucus Chairman's reception during Bayou Classic. I want to thank Dr. Sullivan and Chandler for their support from the board office. Nucor Steel, as well as LAMP, were sponsors, and of course, the RPCC Foundation sponsored an event. I think we had about 250 people to show up. Maybe 15 to 20 of the caucus members showed up. It was a phenomenal event for something we threw together, I think, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We put it all together. Kudos to the staff, Tara Robertson and her team, for really doing the bulk of the work. It was just an idea that we had, and I want to thank my colleagues for showing up, Super Chancellor Smith, as well as Chancellor Stibe. And the long and short of it was, the message anyway, was that as an HBCU grad myself, and now as a chancellor of a community college, the missions are not exclusive. The missions are not competitive, right? And how do we begin to have conversations so that we can break this perception that we're competing against each other versus working together so that we can serve the people of Louisiana in a more deliberate kind of a way. And so that was the purpose. We'll continue to have those conversations, again, not just with the Black Caucus, but all of the various caucuses that reside in the legislature. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Chancellor.
No, I think you did a great job. I would say that we had talked about this for a while, doing these kind of things. But the biggest thing, and I've been doing this, my wife and I, for the last probably 8-10 years. And I have no stake in HBCU because I'm a Tulane graduate. But it gave me an opportunity to see folks that turn the industry, Shell, Dow, all our business industry partners are there. And I catch them at one particular time, maybe around some adult beverages, but we normally get work done to talk about how they support our students and our system. And so that is another opportunity for us to seize on. So great job.
Thank you. Are there questions? Well, again, thank you for inviting me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And you had great libations as well.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we can get an invitation too.
Well, we did send an invitation to the entire board, but yeah, it might be in your spam. Yeah,
When's the next one?
the Friday after Thanksgiving, 2025.
Write it down.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll continue with Dr. Sullivan's President's report.
Chancellor Taylor, before you sit, you want to return to the table? Yes, sir. And I believe you have some guests that you would like to have join you. I believe Stanley Bienemy's here with you, right? And you want to introduce any of the other guests?
Stanley Bienemy with Air Products, Michael Smith with ExxonMobil Pipeline, and Mrs. E. Frederick with the Ascension Parish School Board. So I will give our guests each an opportunity to introduce themselves and the company that they represent, and then we'll go into a quick presentation.
I'd like to thank the board as well as the chancellor for allowing us the opportunity to come and speak to you today. My name is Stanley Bienemy. I'm with Air Products, and we are an industrial gas company that works throughout the energy corridor, supplying our customers with industrial gas products.
Hi, my name is Eve Frederick, and I am the Director of Primary Schools for Ascension Parish School Board, and thankful to be here today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Smith. I'm the Public and Stakeholder Engagement Lead for ExxonMobil Pipeline Company. And I have primary overview of in Louisiana, Mississippi, over about 30 counties and parishes, of which the vast majority of your all territory is included in that. Delighted to be with you today and speak with you for a few moments.
Thank you so much. So to say that there's a lot happening in the river parishes would be an understatement. Let me just get that out of the way first and foremost, and really excited that we have an opportunity to come back to this board and to continue to tell the story of the work we're doing with our EPIC consortium, our energy partners for innovation and collaboration. You'll recall I came several months ago and talked at a high level about some of the things that we're doing in that space, and our partners at the table are critical to us moving the mission forward. Just to recap, you've heard me talk about our competitive advantage. And so those 4 stars you see there represent the 4 campuses of River Parishes Community College. And each of those little dots that you see are facilities between our 4 campuses. It is a massive opportunity, not just for our colleges, but our sister institutions that neighbor us, to help us to meet the needs of our industry partners and, of course, our school districts. So this competitive advantage led to us creating the EPIC Consortia. It is a group of more than 25 industry partners helping us to do the work of these 3 work streams, right? Where we are revamping the curricula to make sure that we're providing for the workforce of today, but then also what does this workforce look like in 15, 25, 35 years as we go down the road, cultivating talent, and then market awareness and landscape analysis. What we're going to talk about today is specifically along that second work stream of cultivating talent. And so with that, I'll give you a high-level overview of what we're doing with ExxonMobil and why they're at the table today. We were approached by Exxon, and I'll give it to Mike to talk more about it, to look at how do we begin to potentially provide training in the pipeline emergency response space, fire safety training, hazardous material response training, because of all of the different expansion that's happening in the river region. And so, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and the invitation very much. At the risk of offending all of my colleagues that work at our 100-plus-year-old refinery in Baton Rouge and our chemical plant and our plastics plant and lubricants and all of that, at the risk of offending all of them, I'd like to tell you that here this morning that our pipeline company is probably the most important among all of our collective organizations in the greater Baton Rouge region. And the reason for that is we are uniquely situated to maximize the value chain across all of those organizations because they're all interconnected by our pipeline network. And because of that, it gives us a reach. It gives us the opportunity to now be in a majority of Louisiana's parishes for the first time. So making ExxonMobil truly a statewide organization in terms of our footprint. But most importantly to us on the pipeline side is we take very seriously our commitment to the public. Unlike our friends in the refinery and chemical plant, plastics plant that I mentioned, we don't have the luxury of being behind a fence. We're actually in others' backyards. You know, we're next to shopping centers and nursing homes and hospitals. We're next to schools and playgrounds and the communities where you all live. And it's because we transport products every day that are integral to the success of Louisiana. Now, with that in mind, we take that responsibility very, very seriously. And we actually make sure that, for example, all of the first responders in the areas where we operate are as equipped and trained as possible, because we will often and many times lean on them to come and respond to our needs should they arise. With that responsibility comes a plan. And part of that plan is to make sure that all of our firefighters in particular, anywhere in the United States where we operate, have the opportunity to attend a world-class fire training and pipeline safety training free of charge. It's a commitment that we make. It's a partnership that we've had now for a number of years with Texas A&M University. If you're not familiar with the TEACS Fire Training Facility, it is considered to be the world-class facility that folks come from every continent to train there. When I took over in this position, one of the key programs that I wanted to institute is how can we train Louisiana firefighters here in Louisiana? How can we do that better? Of course, there are some options. There are some options currently available. But from our perspective, those options don't quite have the pipeline emergency response training and the hazardous materials response training that we see from Texas A&M. So we approached RPCC. If I had to pick a worldwide headquarters for ExxonMobil Pipeline Company, it would be Ascension Parish, Louisiana. Quite frankly, everything that we do as a company is taking place there today. Everything from storage to transportation. Our CO2 pipelines are there now. We have an active project going on right now in conjunction with CF Industries that you might have heard of. That's very groundbreaking, the first of its kind in the United States. So because of that, we wanted to approach RPCC to see, is there an opportunity for us to partner with a local institution, a respected institution, an institution that certainly is immediately in our footprint, and that we could help fund a training here at home. And so it all starts with it today and tomorrow, actually, with the presentation of our initial grant to help start that planning process on your campus, and we're excited about that. And I would again be remiss if I didn't recognize the collaborative effort of all of the folks in Ascension Parish, in particular, Chief James LeBlanc and the Sheriff's Department as well. All of them there have been incredibly collaborative about taking that approach, and that is what gives us the in the Christmas spirit, that warm fuzzy feeling that this is going to go quite well. And we're excited to kick that off today. And we look forward to reporting back to you and to the board and Dr. Sullivan as we progress. But thank you so very much for that opportunity to explain that to you. It's a world-class thing that we are proud to bring to Louisiana, and we're looking forward to making sure that the community and technical college system is front and center in that development.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mike. If there are there any questions of Mike?
Questions from the board for Mike? Okay, we continue.
Okay, well, Misty, I did want Dr. Slater to come up, just talk real quick about some of the work that's about to ensue in relates to the planning for what the programs might look like.
So thank you all for having our college here today to speak to this. And thank you, Mike and ExxonMobil, for initiating the conversations with us. The plan is to provide, identify space, first of all, plan to provide props for these firefighters, especially our volunteer firefighters who, with the, I say, growing use and changing use with energy diversification, those pipeline incidents, though we hope never occur, when they do, that our emergency responders do have the knowledge and the practice to be able to do so for the safety of our communities. And so that is the idea, that we start with 3 to 5 props and provide those exercises here locally so that we don't have to travel to College Station or send those folks over there for that. And thank you, Mike and team, for hosting me. I actually did get to go to College Station and experience the weekend of training, and my respect for emergency responders grew tremendously in light of what they face. So very proud to be a part of this. This is not just a feel-good project, but it is also a necessary project given the dynamics that are changing in the transportation sector for energy, for hydrogen, for carbon sequestration. So thank you all for your support of it. We appreciate it. There are a couple of annual trainings and certifications that we hope to embed and incorporate in this project as well. So we're looking forward to 2025 and seeing what those efforts result in.
So nimble and coming to the table on the fly. I really do appreciate that. I didn't.
And
mean to
she
put
did a
that
great
on-
job putting out fires at Teeks, I can tell you. So
Did.
you better, yeah, she did a great job.
Thank you, Misty, and thank you, Mike. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Mr. Randy Haddad, who's a consultant that works with Mike and the team over at ExxonMobil Pipeline. He's been a tremendous asset and a partner to help us get to this point. So, Mike, I thank you so much for your support. So, on to the next item on the agenda. Air Products is a tremendous partner, not just to River Parishes Community College, quite frankly, but to the entire river region and across the globe in the communities where they do business. And so ExxonMobil, Air Products, they've made a significant investment in River Parishes Community College to support the three items you see on the screen. Our Manufacturing Day 2024 and 2025, that's an event where we gather middle and high school students from across the area to come and do hands-on demonstrations of all things manufacturing, petrochemical, and learning more about this energy transition. Number two on the list is something that's really a collaborative effort. We do have the very best legislative delegation in the River region, and I do mean that with all due respect. Thanks to the hard work of Senator Ed Price, Representative Tony Bacala, as well as Representative Kim Brass, they were able to secure north of $100,000 to pay the Southern Law School to do an expungement event in St. John the Baptist at our reserve campus. We will host it. Air Products has signed on to support it from a financial standpoint, where we will do the expungement. We will also do driver's license suspension fixes. And then we will also have a career fair as well as training exposés for everybody that walks through the door. It's not enough just to expunge their record, but how do we make sure that once that record is expunged, the other barriers to employment are removed and they're able to get some good paying jobs? Really, really excited about that. But what I will tell you is the coup de grace, the whatever you want to call it, the biggest part of this work is our Epic E3 Academy. That is generational, life-changing work. And I will talk more about it in a second, but I did want to give Stanley an opportunity to talk about their contribution.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Air Products, we are a worldwide industrial gas company. We operate in over 50 countries. We employ over 22,000 people. We have 18 facilities in Louisiana, 17 of which are from Baton Rouge, New Orleans. They're small facilities usually co-located with our customers. We have 330 employees in Louisiana to date. We have a $7 billion project, which is in the Darrow, Sorrento area, and the unincorporated area of Ascension Parish, where we will build a world-class facility, and this is our largest investment in the Western Hemisphere ever in Air Products history. And it's going to be right here in Louisiana. I'm a Louisiana native, so that makes me very proud that our investments are here. We're committed to Louisiana. We've operated here for over 58 years. And we also operate, since we want to stay on the pipeline theme, we have the world's largest hydrogen pipeline network, which runs from New Orleans to Texas City, Texas, 700 miles of hydrogen pipeline. So that runs mostly through Louisiana. So we are very committed to our assets here. And this is just the culmination of all of that. With the new project, with the continued investment in Louisiana, we want to understand how do we connect with the communities, as well as how do we get community members in our front doors and part of our workforce. I always tell the community members that this facility or our assets here can take you anywhere around the world with Air Products. You just have to get your foot in the door. So we have all of our kids. I have 3 kids myself, and I want them to have opportunities here. with large companies. We have Fortune 500 companies up and down the river, which can take them here, around the world, and right back home to work. So those are the things that we want to focus on. And that's why RPCC and this work that we're doing with the EPIC E3 Academy was very important, not only to myself, but the other team members that we have in Louisiana, as well as the company, because of all the important critical assets that we have in Louisiana that we want to keep expanding and we want to keep investing here. So we want to make sure that we're doing our part to ensure that there will be a qualified local workforce pool that we will be able to pull from and that we will be able to continually invest in. We looked at it from, I know Chancellor Taylor and I and some of the other members had several conversations of what does that look like? Where does that fit? There's a lot of programs out there. How do we get people in those programs? So I don't want to steal his thunder, but one of the things that we looked at is where do we start? Where does the pipeline, where does the awareness start with, kids, high schoolers? How do we make sure they know what's going on at RPCC? They know what's going on behind the fence lines in these facilities, and they know what opportunities are there. So I'll stop there because we've talked for days about this, so we can continue to go on. But I want Chancellor Taylor to get into more detail of why and how we think that we can accomplish some of these things. So for these three things, and like you said, the main thing that we are investing in is the EPIC E3 Academy, but we are making a $280,000 donation in the RPCC Foundation to ensure that these programs will be developed and get off the ground, and that we can continually be ingrained and responsive to those community needs.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, so the EPIC E3 Academy, and I'm trying to speed this along. The E3 stands for Expose, Engage, and Employ. Expose, Engage, and Employ. So what is the E3 Academy? It is a year-long after-school program, 1-hour sessions, 2 days a week, an energy-enriched curricula from the U.S. Department of Energy. The instruction will be delivered by certified teachers who work for Ascension Parish Schools, who will become what we call EPIC Fellows. It is project-based hands-on learning activities and demonstrations, early career exposure to the energy industry, and we will kick this off in the fall of 2025 at 2 Ascension Parish Schools, Lowry Primary School in Donaldsonville and Sorrento Primary School in Sorrento. Phenomenal opportunity. So 3rd grade, they'll start. Those 3rd graders become 4th graders. And as they matriculate and progress, the work becomes a little more rigorous, right? So right now it's age and grade appropriate. We are now using this current space that we're in to onboard teachers, to train teachers. They are going through rigorous professional development. There's a consultant that is on board to help us with this work. What I'm really excited about is, and being married to a 1st grade teacher, she said, this is all great in theory, but we do not have enough time in our day to really focus on how you really want to get into the weeds of this work. And it was her idea, and I'll give her all the credit, to look at doing it in an after-school setting. That way it can be more intentional and the students have more time on task. And then I want to give our partners at the school board a tremendous thank you and a shout out for believing in the vision and sitting at the table with us to build this. We are building this plane as we fly it. Really, really super excited about how this is going to work. And I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Frederick, if you want to talk about the school district's involvement.
Sure. Thank you so much. Ascension Parish Schools are very proud to partner with River Parish Community Colleges for this EPIC 3 program. We know that it's going to give our students some great opportunities after school to be able to engage in some problem-solving activities, allow them to learn to collaborate with one another, some better communication skills, and just to sharpen, again, their reading and writing and math skills that, they will use daily as well. So we know this is a great opportunity for them to be exposed to jobs that they don't even know about right now. We know this world is ever changing, and the world that they know now or that we see now will be completely different when they graduate from high school and from college. So we're grateful for this opportunity that our students will have to engage in this work, and really thankful to Air Products and to Chancellor Taylor for the opportunity this provides for our students. So thank you.
Thank you. I think it's important to note real quick that This energy curricula is going to be aligned with what the school district and those teachers have to accomplish for their metrics, for their accountability scores, right? So we're going to align the two, and it's really focused, and you touched on it, Ms. Frederick, numeracy and literacy and soft skills. What we hear all the time from industry is, well, sometimes they know the technical piece, but it's those other areas where they're deficient, right? And so how do we make sure that these young people, again, at third grade, so by the time they get to ninth grade, they would have been fully exposed to all the different opportunities. And selfishly, they then enroll in our early college technical academy, right? Starting in ninth grade. And then they would have duly enrolled and earned a marketable credential by the time they graduate high school. And if their goal is to then go on to be a chemical engineer at chemical engineer major at ULL or wherever, God bless them, go forward and let's do that. If they choose to go work at Turner or at Exxon or at Air Products with a technical diploma or an associate's degree, we would have prepared them properly to be able to go in and be ready to work on day one. Super excited. Last thing I'll say is this. There are benefits for the instructors. We're paying them $50 an hour. They will, and their dependents will receive tuition discounts to attend RPCC. And I talked about the world-class professional development and built-in connections with industry partners to support career advancement and exposure. With that, I'm happy to take any questions before we do a big check photo.
Good stuff.
Wow. Wow. That's very impressive. Members of the board, questions, comments?
Did have a question, sorry. I think it's awesome. I love the collaboration. I was just gonna ask about the parents. And if there was any way that they could participate in this incredible partnership.
So yes, they can, Supervisor McConduit. So, and what I didn't, so there'll be 20 students per site. So a total of 40 students. And the parents and the student will have to sign a contract that says mom, dad, grandma, papa, whomever the adult is, must be engaged in this process. There will be parent classes that accompany this as well. Because at the end of the day, the goal is talent development, right? So these two gentlemen, they've got people, and you, sir, you've got people that you need today. And so there's nothing to say that those parents can't come in and earn a skill to go to work today. So the short answer is yes, there is a component for the parents.
Very good. Other questions or comments?
You said that there was gonna be classes for the parents, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, just,
I would endorse anything that prevents a Louisiana person from going to College Station as an LSU graduate. So I'm in for that. This is, by the way, this is wonderful.
Supervisor Smith, we feel similarly, and I can say that that all 122 Louisiana firefighters that went across the state line did come back successfully, and without incident. But to your point, we recognize, and just to kind of quickly expound upon something that she was saying, just a quick stat for you: below I-10, south of I-10, 78% of our firefighters are volunteers. And of that 78%, 53% work in the energy industry space, and many of those are on shift work, most notably 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So I'm talking about a very significant portion of our volunteer firefighting force, and particularly in South Louisiana. It is incredibly difficult for them to take one of the 2 weekends that they have off to go train, now granted at our expense, but to go train for a job that they don't get paid to do, that they volunteer for. So that's a tall ask. So that is actually what spurred the thought, was exactly the commute that you bring up, and we're happy to kick this off and hopefully lead to some really terrific things right here in the River Corridor.
Thank you. And I did forget to recognize some staff members who've done a tremendous job. Ms. Tasha Jackson, who is the Assistant Director of our EPIC Consortia. I think Tasha is in the room. Thank you so much for the work that you've done. You and Dr. Thompson have done a tremendous job. Tara Robeson and Landon Corbin in the foundation are also doing tremendous work. Just really excited about what we have going on. And last thing I promise, Katie, this is the last thing. RPCC cannot do this work in isolation. It's impossible with the numbers of jobs that are available and that are coming along the river. And so I'm going to continue to work with my partners, especially those who are in this market, and we're going to get this done. We're going to get this done because we don't want folks coming from Texas and Florida and North Carolina or any other country potentially to come and do the work that we know our people can do and earn a good living. Thank you so much. Let's take a picture.
Very well done, and thank you to the partners. Right. Always fun to visit with our business partners and to see all the progress that is going on within our colleges. Certainly, as we think about the workforce discussion that we just had, it's the other side of the mission that we'll turn to next, and that is the mission that is so important to our students who are transitioning from our two-year colleges into universities. We have with us today someone who is no stranger to our community and technical college system, but someone who didn't stop leading when he left the Louisiana Community and Technical College system. Instead, what he's done is simply changed venues and just continue to push the accelerator even more directly. So it's very difficult for me to not say Chancellor Wainwright, but to say President of Southeastern Louisiana University, Dr. William Wainwright. I'm sorry, Dr. Carlson. I totally just,
He's coming to.
that's right. I'm sorry.
And here Jim said was he's used to it. I never knew how to work this mic.
We do have a training class for that.
There we go. All right. Thank you. Hardest part of the presentation, but
I earned the IBC already.
yeah. Chairman Hardy, President Sullivan, and members of the board, thank you all so much for the invitation to come back home and share some exciting news with you that is taking place at Southeastern. I do have some individuals with me I want to introduce who I'll reference later in the presentation. First and foremost is Dr. Claire Procopio. She is our Dean of the College of Honors and Excellence. And her mother was the founding president of Nunez Community College. She is a Delgado graduate who was an honors graduate at Delgado and transferred to a four-year, not Southeastern, that created some challenge when it came to honoring her honors work at Delgado. And so she came to me and we had a discussion about creating an ease of transfer, but most importantly, perpetuating the honors designation for those two-year students who've worked so hard when they make that transfer to four-year. And so that what leads to our first presentation. Also with me, I'll have a conversation with you all about our QEP, our Quality Enhancement Plan focused on transfer student success. I have Mrs. Candace Formaggio with me. She is our QEP director and leads our transfer center for student success. And then also Dr. Amber Narrow, who leads our honors college. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Carlson to get us started.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chair Hardy and the board for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about our latest progression of NTCC and Southeastern Louisiana's partnerships. This week, actually, I celebrated my 10-year work anniversary at North Shore Technical Community College when Dr. Wainwright hired me to be the Dean of Academics. Prior to that, I had served 6 years as a Director of Chapter Relations for the Honor Society of Phi Kappa Phi. And one of the first things he asked me to do was to get a Phi Theta Kappa chapter at NTCC, which we did the very first spring I was here. And I was actually the first ever person to get a Council of Occupational Education institution approved into PTK. And they asked me later, they're like, wait a minute, so you're not regionally accredited through SAC-COC? And I said, no. They said, well, why didn't you tell us that? And I said, you didn't ask. So I'd opened the door for all the other colleges that needed to walk through that. But now the rules are different. That after us, the rules did change. So I'm excited to talk about today because we now have the NTCC to Southeastern pathway for honor students. And what it'll do is it'll allow our North Shore College students to be able to begin their program as a honors program graduate at Southeastern at the end, but they'll be able to take honors courses while they're at North Shore Technical Community College. And then they'll be able to make that progression over to the honors program with the university. So it's a great opportunity for our students that want to pursue that avenue. And I hope to make it not staged, stodgy, and self-congratulatory like most honors programs. And we're going to make it a little more fun. So that's our goal over at North Shore.
And again, I had referenced Dr. Procopio and Dr. Amber Narrow, who of course leads our honors program, just for their vision and foresight, because once this was achieved through North Shore, had an opportunity to reach out to Dr. Sullivan and want to thank you, Monty, for your leadership and support in looking systemically, because we know that this was not only an isolated challenge for a North Shore honors graduate to transfer, but we know across the system, this could be a greater opportunity. So to Dr. Palermo, who worked closely with Dr. Procopio and Dr. Narrow, and to my chancellor colleagues joining us today, I'm truly grateful for Southeastern, for you to have Southeastern as certainly an institution that honors the work that's been done by your honors graduates. And so the next slide is, if I'll take a brief moment to share with you, when I arrived at Southeastern, we were preparing for our SAC-COC reaffirmation, which will be in February of 2025. Thank you. And my tech support. And so we've spent the last year identifying what our quality enhancement plan would focus on. There are not many quality enhancement plans in our state or across our nation with a focus on community college transfer students. And through comprehensive engagement with students, faculty, and staff, I was extremely excited to see where we landed. This is not a QEP focused on a transfer student experience. That's important. It is solely focused on the transfer student's success. So we use the data that you all have seen, data on student retention, data on persistence and what leads to completion. And we've built some intentional programmatic opportunities within our Office of Student Transfer to ensure their success. And so we are going to measure closely the success of our transfer students. They will no longer be lumped in to traditional orientations of all students. If you think about it, we'll treat them kind of like we do our veteran student population, with some specificity, understanding their unique circumstances. We understand with our transfer student, not only is time the enemy, but also they began at a community college for a specific reason, in many cases, affordability. And we understand the importance that we honor their time and their investment and their success. So you can see the metrics that we're following there, the increased sophomore to junior and junior to senior retention. We know we have some challenges there with our transfer students. We're going to use the data that we have to ensure their success long term. And then finally, the final piece we'll share with you is, as you all knew, we had a very successful Connector Success program prior to COVID. We know that during COVID, with the lifting of admissions requirements, we saw that program dissolve. We have reimagined that program. I want to thank Dr. Daniel Roberts, who's our provost at North Shore Technical Community College, as well as Mark Schofan, the Vice Chancellor of Finance, for looking differently at the new path forward. And so I'll have Dr. Carlson close before we open it up to any questions on our new Direct Connect program.
Yeah, to me, it was the kind of the natural next step between our two institutions to come together and find a way to help our students and our communities we're serving. Essentially, this is a agreement between the two institutions where we rent space at Southeastern's North Campus, and we provide what we call the Louisiana Transfer Degrees, so Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, or Associate of General Studies for anyone whose primary goal is to graduate from Southeastern. So they can begin their educational journey at Southeastern location-wise, but they'll be with North Shore Technical Community College faculty for some smaller class opportunities while they get their feet underneath them and make themselves ready to make that transition over to the four-year university. So it's a great opportunity for students to be able to kind of get that smaller class size, but also a pathway to their end goal of the four-year degree from the very beginning. And it does provide the affordability piece too that Dr. Wainwright had spoken about.
And I hope to come to you in the future, perhaps a year from now, to talk about the success of our work with our transfer students, what we said we were going to do through our quality enhancement plan, where we're succeeded, where we're still seeing challenges, and most importantly, open the doors for all of Louisiana's community and technical colleges when it comes to seamless transfer of our honor students. So thank you. We'll entertain any questions you may have.
Excellent. Any questions from the board, comments? Sure.
As you know, I am in Hammond, where both institutions are located, and I cannot say it enough the impact that NTCC and SLU have on the community, the city, the parish. So I'm so proud to work with both of you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? I want to just point out to you that the 3-year graduation rate metric is not typical in our business. So when you see a leader identify a 3-year graduation rate as a result of working in transfer, that's different. That's new. That's something that is being brought forward that we hope our friends at the Board of Regents could adopt as a metric to make sure that our universities are treating our students well once they transfer from two-year college to university. Thank you for your leadership. Very much appreciated.
Appreciate it.
All right. Last but certainly not least, I want to mention and recognize a group that is with us today. We have with us in the room the 8th class of the Louisiana Leadership Academy. Please stand up and be recognized. This group is in a year-long professional development effort, and we very much appreciate the time and energy that you are putting into your work there. You got to get with the group, right? Got to stand with the group. That's right. But thank you so much for the effort. Jennifer, thank you for all the great work that is going into our professional development efforts. It was Mickey Murphy 13 years ago who said, we may not be able to do things financially at that time, but we can invest in you. And that's what the Leadership Academy is about. Thank you for taking the time and being a part of our Louisiana Leadership Academy. Thank you. And one final announcement, if I can, Chancellor June, if you could please stand. Members of the board, I would just point out to you that it was 4 years ago today that this board appointed Chancellor Vincent June. Chancellor, great work, and thank you for all of the work that you put in the last 4 years. We're very proud of you. All right, Mr. Chair, with that, I will turn the agenda back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Really good stuff this morning, right? As we move on to the academic items, I will ask Supervisor Jennifer Lee, can you present the academic action items for consideration by the board?
Thank you, Chair. The first item that I would like to present is an accreditation update, and Dr. Chandler LaBeouf will provide us some information about that.
Well, good morning, Chair Hardy, President Sullivan, members of the board. I come to you with a short update regarding the accreditation work that's going on at North Louisiana Technical Community College. Chancellor Spillers is not here with us this morning to give the update, and that is due so that as she is working diligently with her team to make sure that they have the opportunity to submit their comprehensive application in early January. And the goal is that they'll have their on-site visit March 17th with a recommendation at that June meeting. So that team is laser focused on making sure that they can do what they need to do to get over the hump, and we're excited about the opportunity there. there, and just can't thank our team and Bill and Wendy enough in that support for Chancellor Spillers and her team.
Any questions on the accreditation item? I will just add that our members of our Chancellor team and a number of the administrators from across the system have attended the SACS conference this past week in Austin. I want to point out to the board that upon the accreditation of the colleges that were COE accredited transitioning to SACS accreditation. So imagine that was Sewella and Fletcher and North Shore, a whole range of institutions. At the last meeting, SACS adopted a policy that no longer requires an institution that is nationally accredited to go through the candidacy process. Now, we don't have colleges remaining to go through that process, but I want to point out to the board that when we saw what was absolutely despicable in how our institutions were treated differently, we ran through the gauntlet. We did what had to be done, but we also went back and said to the leader of SACS, this is wrong. And to Belle Whelan's credit, in her final meeting, we were able to fix that. So to Dr. Whelan, thank you. If you're watching out there, to the leaders out there in the Chancellor group, thank you for the work that you did to make this change happen. It may not help our colleges, but other institutions around this country will benefit. Thank you for that work.
Thank you. Item number 2 is revisions to the LCTCS policy number 2.004 regarding student conduct and appeal procedures.
Yes, thank you. The goal is that we've made revisions to LCTCS policy 2.004, which were necessary for the alignment revisions, especially with the approved Act 416 and the regular 2024 legislative session, which was relatively to the disciplinary proceedings at public post-secondary institutions regarding students and student organizations. And so the policy is in front of you, and we're asking for that approval. So I can read the recommendation when you're ready.
Please.
Yep. Staff recommends that the board approve the revisions to LCTCS policy 2.004, student conduct and appeal procedures.
Thank you. Fellow board members, you've heard the staff recommendation. I'd like to request a motion to approve that recommendation.
Motion by Supervisor Mounts, second by Supervisor Hogan. Thank you.
All right. Is there any discussion regarding the motion on the table? Is there any objection to that? All right. Hearing no objection, the motion carries. Chair, that will conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Lee. I think Dr. Sullivan,
Sure.
You want to go back to some of your
If I
unfinished
may.
business?
Yes, sir. Chair Hardy, apologies, members of the board. I skipped over the board development session. So I want to go back to the board development session as it is listed there and give you a quick update and ask Joe if he will join us at the table as well. In 2017, as we were in the midst of our Louisiana 2020, the 6-year plan that this board approved that set out 6 very specific goals, things like doubling the number of graduates from 20,000 to 40,000. As we were a couple of years into that plan, we began to realize that the relationship between the resource that we had available to us and accomplishing the goal was real. And as a result, we felt like it was important that we find ways to maximize the resource that we had. So under the leadership of then Chair Tim Hardy, who certainly recalls that great work that was done by the board at that point in time, we were able to put together what is referred to as the Strategic Sustainability and Growth Plan. The idea being, if we are going to double the number of graduates, we have to make a better use of the resource that we have available to us. And so over a period of time, we laid out a number of different goals. Very specifically, you can see in the item that is at your station there, recommendation number 1 said board staff and college leaders are to develop and implement strategies to serve and graduate more students. Imagine that. Just to simply graduate and serve more students and to increase the self-generated revenue to ensure program sustainability. Again, the sustainability element is so important. Ms. Tony, you said to us, Ms. Tony Wilson, a number of months ago at one of our chancellor meetings, that what this is really about is creating stability at a college level that allows the college to extend that stability to our students and thereby have that individual student be able to extend that stability to their family, creating stability in communities. And so in order to do this work, we had work to do in our own internal operations. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Dr. LaBeouf and Joe Marine to give us a quick update on where we stand as a result of that work going back to 2017. Chandler?
Great. Thank you. Good morning again. You'll have the full report in front of you. We did prepare a short presentation that takes us through the overview. But again, as Dr. Sullivan mentioned, the purpose was really to take the opportunity to review the fiscal operations to maximize the sustainability, focusing on our students, the community needs, that's both internally, externally, and workforce alignment. And the significant progress and the financial stability and outcomes is the focus that we'll focus on today, is where we are in response to those and where we think we can continue to go. But highlight some of the key achievements. As mentioned, in 2012, we graduated just over 12,000 students, and this past year alone, 35,000 students. And so while that isn't aligned with our 2030 goals, we want to highlight the work that's been done over the last 10 years in that space, improve financial health across all of our colleges, and Joe will touch a little bit more on that at a deeper level, and then enhance the self-generated revenue from 132 million in 2012 to 156 million in 2024. And so those are just a few to highlight, but you can read much more in depth in the actual document provided. But in recommendation 1, as mentioned, strategies for sustainability, there were comprehensive fee practices to reduce the student burden. So we have not increased tuition since 2016. And again, the 15.7 million saved through OERs, so the open educational resources, so the dollars that are there for our students to be able to do what they need to do inside and outside the classroom. 1B, the dual enrollment, the growth that we've seen over time from 16-17 academic year of 11,000 to over 13,000, nearly 14,000 in 23-24 academic year, and the work that specifically we see happening across our colleges, especially Nunez as an example in the dual enrollment space. The next continued with recommendation 1C, incarcerated training programs. As we a year ago made the announcement of the dollars received from corrections, over 5.5 million for justice reform initiatives. And just similar as you heard earlier this morning, our continued efforts with OJJ, that training continues and will continue to be a priority for our system and our colleges and the communities. And 1D, apprenticeships, compressed programs and adult education programs. Specifically with apprenticeships, we know that there's a challenge there with some of the costs, so we're working to figure out the long-term sustainability. We know apprenticeships are important, but how do we financially create a stable model, continue that work? When you look at adult education programs, we're serving over 30,000 students, but there's over 500,000 individuals in our state alone that are adults without a high set or high school diploma. So how do we continue to tap in that pipeline with the current restricted resources we have today? So continuing advocacy efforts to make sure that we have the sustainability efforts to do some of that work. And then as we go into recommendation 2, the program alignment based on workforce demand. So looking at things around making sure that we're aligning our programs specifically in efforts to not just program sharing, but also making sure that we're answering our industry and the needs to make sure that our programs are really aligned at high wage, high demand career fields, the work that we've seen in the non-credit, as well as the dual enrollment, aside from credit, enterprise service delivery enhancements, and then 2C, athletic funding, insurance strategies, and campus realignments. And I'll turn it to Joe to expand on 2B or 2C as he sees fit.
Right. Definitely, we have actually expanded enterprise services within our system. If anything, we're probably one of the most efficient systems in higher ed in the state of Louisiana. I can say that with 100% confidence in terms of not only just Banner, but in terms of just how we operate in terms of a centralized payroll system, internal audit. Obviously, we actually even have a few cases where we have colleges. We are actually operating their IT infrastructures from this office. These are small colleges that are having difficulty recruiting CIOs for their college campuses. And in that sense, Eric Setz provides that oversight for those colleges. In terms of athletics fundings, we've seen a decline in state funding use for the athletic programs in the state for our colleges. Regarding insurance strategies, we are looking at opportunities related to risk management and or healthcare insurance for us to see if there's any opportunities there for us to achieve. And obviously, campus realignments have been something of a great success for us to realign them to those regional markets to provide also closer ties with those larger colleges. I think of Oakdale in particular, going to Sewella and Lamar Salter and others. And the communities are very receptive to those changes that have occurred.
Moving into 3, focused on investment in our people and our technologies. You had an opportunity, as Dr. Sullivan mentioned, we continue the efforts of investing in our faculty and staff, whether that's through the Faculty Institute, Louisiana Leadership Academy, CWD, tuition waivers, et cetera. So that work continues. And highlighting specifically the 3rd bullet, collaborative program delivery across our colleges. That's the program sharing piece. So you've seen over time, and I'll highlight an example of program sharing between Fletcher and Central and healthcare, the 3 North Louisiana colleges creating the Workforce Training Alliance. Those are just to name a 2. So name 2 specific programs and areas in which they're saying, let's take resources and deliver the programs that are of quality and make sure that we can do it in the way that we're not messing necessarily with the quantity of the resources. And so that is recommendation 3. Recommendation 4, as mentioned, is specifically around the institutional health index implementation and the reserve balances. And Joe, if you want to dive into both of those.
Yes. If you would have asked me 10 years ago where our colleges stood financially, I honestly could not have told you with any degree of certainty whether they were financially healthy or not. Today, I will say, after 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears and work, not only within our office, but also with our colleges in a collaborative process, really, we have multiple steps in place to monitor our colleges' financial health, whether it's at the beginning of the year, when we look at our fund balances, whether it's during the year, when we look at monthly reports that are generated out of Banner that we've developed to provide information to both chancellors down to the CFOs. It's an automatic report that's issued every month to our colleges. It's pretty detailed with regards to revenues and expenditures, to also include monitoring of cash balances on a monthly basis of all our colleges and looking at trend analysis to see exactly what's going on at our colleges over time. So that if you were to ask me today, I can tell you pretty much rank wise from strongest to weakest where our colleges lie. I am glad and happy to report, though, that all our colleges are in great financial shape. After years of strategy, I've seen some colleges that I had some concerns about in the past who are probably now the strongest that they've ever been. And I'm very happy and proud of those CFOs and chancellors who have worked to get there and secure those colleges to those footings that they have currently.
Thank you. And then a few things just as we go into next steps is one, the opportunity to continue to address the declining enrollment trends, whether that's through admissions policies that are out there at the state or federal level, opportunities for us to look at ways in which we can be of service to our communities and our people. And so we see that trend increasing over time as a goal, expanding programming share initiatives. I mentioned a few, but we know that there's an opportunity to continue to have our chancellors and colleges collaborate for program sharing initiatives. So that's also remaining a focus. And then 3rd, continuing advocacy for policy changes and funding. And so where we see fit, we're going to continue to advocate through our colleges, our resources, both at state and federal level. So I'll turn it back to Dr. Sullivan, see if there are any questions.
Thank you to Joe and to Chandler. Are there comments or questions from the board? Yes, sir.
I would just chime in and again, several for the folks who've been around for a while. I certainly remember having meetings where we were authorizing system office funding to support a school that was not balancing its books properly. It usually happened towards the end of the fiscal year, and that happened more than once. So being financially sound and stable is absolutely paramount. And frankly, not being is not acceptable. So I'm glad to hear that. And that's one of the reasons we implemented this program is because of those things that would come up at the end of the fiscal year, and somebody was coming needing us to basically loan them some money. So that's just not the way to do it.
To your point, also, what's really facilitated this was your investments that you authorized over 10 years ago, actually in 2011 and 2010 when we implemented Banner. And we went through a process of implementing it and kind of finding out what were the opportunities available to us with the centralized system. And so to go from there to where we are right now has been a very deliberative process. And you're right, Supervisor Smith, when you have those situations come up, it makes you get focus, which we have had on this for some time now. And again, I'm very pleased and proud to announce that our colleges are on great financial footing at the moment.
And I'm sorry for Mr. Chairman, if you allow me. I know we have some of our sister institutions that have not done as good a job of that. I know specifically of one last year that needed help, and this morning, there's one in the paper today. If you read the paper today is dealing with it because they have failed to manage the money. And that's just, you're not doing the article I read in the paper today, that institution that's a bad thing to see that in the front page of paper. Even if everybody's pulling the wagon together, you get that kind of press, it's a bad thing. It's hard to recover from that. So we do not want to end up in that situation by any stretch.
Yep. We agree. We agree. Other comments or questions from the board?
I would say tremendous work. I mean, obviously, there's so much here to be proud of. I like the continued focus on enrollment. We know that's important, but I think it kind of harkens me back to the presentation we just heard with Dr. Wainwright in terms of how important it is for the four-year institutions to also prioritize that transfer and things like that, right? Like the seamlessness between the systems, I think is incredibly important, because then hopefully it'll be changes like that will continue to drive enrollment for the two-year institutions, which are certainly, we know are so incredible. So I mean, I just applaud this, but even more so the operations. One thing to focus on the students, it's another thing to focus on the finance, but the operational efficiencies that have been put in place are, we all work every day, and it's like, is it easy to work where we work? Is it easy to do work with us? And so I'm proud as a board member, right, as to see the progress that has happened there. And I commend you and your leadership at the system office for putting things like that in place. And kudos.
Yeah. And I would just touch that while we continue to make transfer opportunities a priority, reverse transfer is equally something that we're diving into for the priority. Yes.
Very good. Other comments or questions? All right. To the members of the board, this development session is really intended to look back, particularly for those of you that are relatively new to the board. But what we will look forward to is an opportunity to think about what is the next iteration of our sustainability and growth plan that allows us to be able to grab the next rung on the ladder to become even better, more efficient, and to make better use of the resource that we have. Thank you for that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will turn the agenda back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Supervisor Salath, are you prepared to present the facilities action items for consideration by the board?
Yes, I am, Chair Harmon. Today we have two items I'd like to present. The first one is the continuation of sole source leasing agreement between Kenneth Wood Families LLC and the Louisiana Community and Technical College System on behalf of Fletcher Technical Community College.
And Toby will present that recommendation. Toby?
Sure. Good morning, Chair Hardy, President Sullivan, members, Toby Como, VP of Administration. And just really quickly, some background on this. As a result of Hurricane Ida, Fletcher's machine tool program was forced to relocate to a new space, the current space that they're in right now, that will be replaced with the new Precision Agriculture and Advanced Manufacturing Center building as part of our capital outlay process. That building is set to bid in January of 25 with an anticipated build completion date of January 27. So this extension of this lease bridges that time from now until when that building will be ready. The college has funds to take over the payments for that lease. And so if there's any questions, I'll read the recommendation.
Would you read the recommendation, please?
Staff recommends that the board authorize the president and the Chancellor of Fletcher Technical Community College to negotiate and execute a continuation of a lease agreement with Kenneth Wood Family LLC for a facility located at 139 Equity Boulevard, Houma, Louisiana, where the machine tool program is currently housed. This lease must be approved by the real estate leasing section at Facility Planning and Control.
Thank you very much. You've heard the recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for what we heard.
Motion by Supervisor Smith, seconded by Supervisor Hollins.
Okay, we had a motion, we had a second. Is any discussion with the recommendation? Hearing none, then the affirmative on the motion. Item number 2 is disposal of Baton Rouge Community College Fraser campus.
Yes, sir. So this item is from Baton Rouge Community College. And it's a little bit of background. They originally acquired this site in February of 1999 from Bessie. Then subsequent to that action, the property was transferred to the system and its creation. It's 2 buildings. And the college is proposing to have all the academic programs at these sites relocated by January 25, and will no longer have a need for the facility. The LCTCS owns the property with no revisionary clauses or anything that would prevent the sale, transfer, or exchange of that property. An appraisal was conducted last fall, and the property was appraised for $4 million.
Okay, would you make the recommendation, please?
Staff recommends that the board authorize the system president and the chancellor of Baton Rouge Community College to complete all of the requirements and execute all documents necessary to dispose of property located at 555 Julia Street, Baton Rouge, through sale, transfer, exchange, or long-term lease. Conveyance documents for the sale, transfer, lease, or exchange of this property or any portion thereof must be filed with the local clerk of court and the state land office.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Entertain a motion that it be accepted.
Motion by Supervisor McConduit, seconded by Supervisor Hogan.
Any discussion on the recommendation? Any rejection to the recommendation? Hearing none, the motion should carry. Thank you, Chairman Hardy. That's my concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next, finance items. Supervisor Toops, are you prepared to present the finance action items for consideration by the board?
Share yours. Okay.
Give it back though. I will.
Chair Hardy, item number 5, the Board of Regents matched endowment scholarships and professorships.
Yes, Supervisor Chief. First off, I'd like to thank Chandler for writing an ungodly board recommendation for this item, but it's a good one in this sense. This is a actually an endowed chair and endowed scholarships proposal being sent before you for approval. Just to give a little bit of a story or background to what this is. In the 1980s, there was a settlement, offshore settlement for royalties. There was a fund created at the Board of Regents called the LEQSF, the Louisiana Quality Education Support Fund. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the 8G Fund in the Constitution, which it's no longer an 8G since the Constitution has been amended. But regardless, it provides that if indeed colleges and universities receive private donations, you can get a state match out of this fund. So in this sense, we are bringing forth before you a multitude of donations that are being given to our colleges throughout the system. Those scholarships, the total donations total of $3.3 million. And in a sense, they will be matched by the Board of Regents from this fund out of $3.1 million to make the total donation, so to speak, total $6.4 million. Last I checked, that's a lot of money. And actually, in this case, we actually have, for the first time ever, if I'm reading the board item correctly, SLCC receiving a $600,000 donation with the $400,000 match to provide for $1 million endowed chair. That's the highest level of donations that you can get through this program to get a match. $1 million to create an endowed chair. For them, it's the nursing and home health program at that college.
And I'll just add that it is the highest to date in total, the $6 million that we brought forward on behalf of our colleges and foundations of their $3 million that they're asking to match. And again, SOLA CC is excited about their opportunity to go back for their second round application for chair.
Right, and the rest of the donations are providing scholarships throughout all the colleges in the system at various programs, so that there are funds available to provide, again, scholarships either for first generation students that are coming in or targeted special programs within the colleges themselves. If there are no questions, I would like to read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board approve the endowed scholarships and professorships as presented.
I have trouble getting a motion for this one, Joe. Okay.
Motion by Supervisor Mount, seconded by Supervisor Hollins.
Is there any discussion at all? Are there any objections This one passes unanimously. Congrats. Thanks for everybody on working on this one.
Supervisor Toops, if I may, I just want to make a quick comment. As you all know, in the special session just 2 weeks ago, there was a good bit of discussion around the LEQSF fund. One of the things to be aware of is the LEQSF fund is now slated to be considered for a March ballot of a constitutional amendment that would shift those funds and have them pay down the unfunded accrued liability for K-12 as well as post-secondary education. So that's an issue that that was brought forward in this legislative session. It's one that frankly we have been supportive of, even though we received these funds. The impact of a pay down of the unfunded accrued liability is much greater. And will have a longer term impact. So just wanted to share with you that this is likely the last time that we will have the opportunity to match those funds at the Board of Regents.
Right. And to give some further context also, the LEQSF fund is not only a fund for higher education, it's a fund also that's available for BESI, right? So each party is putting in money to pay down that debt.
Great update. Let's move on to number 6, foundation reimbursements to or on behalf of employees.
Yes. So according to LCTCS policy 5.029, supporting system and college endeavors, and the LCTCS policy on foundations 5.017, annually we bring forward to you any employees who have received over $1,000 in reimbursement for mostly educational related or advocacy opportunity related items. And so presented in front of you is a list of those over the last year or so, and annually we bring those forward for approval, as you'll see listed.
So we need a motion to approve in a second.
Yes, and I can read the recommendation when
Sorry,
ready. Yep.
let's do that.
So staff recommends that the board approve the foundation reimbursements presented as required by LCTCS policy 5.029, supportive system and college endeavors, and LCTCS policy 5.017, LCTCS policy on foundations.
Thank you. Now we need a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Salat, seconded by Supervisor Eli. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Are there any objections? Passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to number 7, the professional services contract between LCTCS and Elution Company, LLC.
Yes, sir. This is an item we bring before the board annually. This is an amendment. I say an amendment. This is a contract by Elution that provides services to help maintain the modifications that we have in Banner. Keep in mind that any contract over $150,000 requires board action, which is why we're bringing it before you. This contract is for $180,000. Dollar wise, it's been pretty constant through over time. There's normally been about a 4% escalator or less that we've held Elution to, but these are modifications that we did at our request, again, for such things as centralized payroll for all our colleges, and the fact that we have a centralized payroll, we have combined W-2s that are issued for our employees and so forth. So anytime there's an update to Banner, this service basically ensures that those modifications remain intact without issue. So we bring it again for board action. Staff recommends that the board authorize the system president to execute a contract between the LCTCS and Elution Company, LLC for maintenance services effective December 1, 2024 through November 30th of 2025.
Fantastic. We do need a motion to approve.
Motion by Supervisor Hogan, seconded by Supervisor Ardwin. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Any objections from the board? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you very much. Let's move on to number 8, the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement between Central Louisiana Technical Community College and BDI Data Link, LLC.
Yes, sir. Correct. As I just mentioned, any contract or contract amendment that brings the contract over $150,000 requires board action. In this case, we have an amendment to a CEA that Central has with BDI Data Link, LLC to provide curricula instructors, course materials, and equipment for a non-credit program in the Certified Fiber Optics program. It was such a success this last year that they're wanting to extend it for another year, increasing the contract from $151,000 to $342,500. Staff recommends that the board approve an amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement between Central Louisiana Technical Community College and BDI Data Link LLC that adds a year to the effective date, now ending December 31st, 2025, instead of December 31st, 2024. This CEA is subject to the approval of the Office of State Procurement.
Motion by Supervisor Hollins, seconded by Supervisor Johnson.
Fantastic. If there's no discussion and no objections, hearing none, this too passes. Last one for me. Let's go to number 9, the professional services contract between the LCTCS Board of Supervisors and the Long Law Firm LLP.
Yes, sir. Recently, we had a legal issue brought before us from one of our colleges requiring legal services to be provided. Unfortunately, the situation involved our current law firm that had also provided services to another agency. And in this case, we had a conflict of interest in a sense. That one way to basically work around it was to ask for your authority to enter into a contract with another law firm to provide specialized legal services. So what we're bringing before you today is a small contract, keeping in mind that the contract rates are set by the Attorney General's office. So it's the same dollar per hour service charge that would be charged by anybody that's providing legal services to a state agency. So in that case, it's still a very uniform net zero gain, so to speak, but the services are being required. In this case, we are wishing to engage Long Law Firm LLP to provide those services on an as-needed basis, not to exceed, the contract is not to exceed $7,500. So it's a very targeted, very, very short contract for approval. And again, it's under $150,000, obviously. So why is it coming before you? It's coming before you because the Attorney General's office requires a board resolution prior to them signing off on the contract. So it's only for legal services that we have to do this. As such, staff recommends that the board approve a legal services contract with Long Law Firm LLP for the period from October 1, 2024 to October 13, 2025, totaling $7,500. The contract includes an option to renew for an additional 1 year or 2 additional 1-year terms and is subject to the approval of the Office of the Attorney General and the Office of General Counsel.
Fantastic. Do we hear any motions to approve?
Motion by Supervisor Lee, seconded by Supervisor Hall.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, that too passes unanimously. Chair Hardy, I pass you your microphone back.
Thank you, Supervisor Toops. Outstanding job as always. Now we'll move to governance. Supervisor Paul Price, are you prepared to present the governance action items for consideration by the board?
I will do the best I can, sir. One item, LCTCS Board Standing and External Committee Appointments. Excuse me. You'll allow me to read the recommendation. The Governance Committee recommends that the board approve the attached revisions to the standing and external committee appointments of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors. Because this recommendation comes from the Governance Committee, there is no need for a second. With that said, those all in favor of approving the recommendation say yay. All opposed say nay. Do I have a, did I do that?
Let's do that one more time. So I think just all of those in favor of approving the recommendation say yay.
Yeah, I said that, but everybody looked at me like I was crazy.
I said yay, then we did the wave.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's a little odd doing it this way, I suppose. Just threw everybody off. All opposed say nay. Hearing no nays. Motion carries. I did my best, Chairman.
You were awesome. Thank you so much, Supervisor Price. Next personnel items. Supervisor Stevie Smith, are you prepared to present the personnel action item for consideration by the board?
I am, and I have my own mic, so we're in good shape.
All
today.
right.
So we have one revision to one of our policies, agreements for all employees, policy 6.015. Gina?
Yep.
Almost good afternoon.
Almost.
Morning, everyone. We discussed this at our last board meeting. We had last updated this policy in 2001. Lots of things have changed since then. So we have lined out what's grievable, what's not grievable, and the process with a timeline so that we all are doing everything the same way across all the colleges and the system office. So if you don't mind, I'll read the recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
Staff recommends that the board approve the attached revision to LCTCS policy 6.015 grievance for all employees.
So we've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Motion by Supervisor Price, seconded by Supervisor Toops.
We've got a motion and a second. Any questions on this one? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. So the next item is we have a need for an executive session to discuss items J12, J13, J14, and J15. So we'll need a motion and a second and then a roll call vote for that. So do we have a motion to?
Motion by Supervisor Mount, seconded by Supervisor Johnson.
Roll call.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that. Chair Hardy
Yes.
is present. Supervisor Smith
Yes.
is present. Yes, okay. Supervisor Toops? Present. Supervisor Burke?
Wait. Get it right.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
You have to answer yes.
yes,
I am present and yes.
yes. Okay. Supervisor Burke? Yes. Supervisor Butler McIntyre is not here. Supervisor Hall? Supervisor Hogan? Supervisor Hollins? Supervisor Johnson? Supervisor Lee?
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit?
Yes.
Supervisor Moody? Supervisor Mount?
Yes.
Supervisor Price? Supervisor Salat? Supervisor Ardoin? And Supervisor Eli? All yeses.
Yep. So we're going to enter into executive session, Mr. Chairman, right? We're going to go in the room right on time?
Yes.
Right? Thank y'all.
And it's colder where we're going.
reconvene the meeting and state that no votes were taken. No consensus was reached during the executive session at this time. I will ask Supervisor Stevie Smith to continue to present the personnel action items for consideration by the board.
Chair Hardy, I just need to reestablish a
Oh,
quorum.
yeah.
Okay, no problem. Chair Hardy?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Supervisor Smith?
Here.
Is,
Yes.
okay. Supervisor Toops?
Here.
Here. Supervisor Burke? Present. Supervisor Hall? Present. Supervisor Hogan? Present. Supervisor Hollins? Present. Supervisor Johnson? Present. Supervisor Lee?
Present.
Present. Supervisor McConduit?
Present.
Present. Supervisor Moody? Present. Supervisor Mount?
Present.
Present. Supervisor Price? Supervisor Salah? Supervisor Ardwin? Supervisor Eli? We do have an established quorum, Chair Hardy.
Thank you. Back in your hands, Supervisor Smith.
Yep, just to reemphasize, during the executive session, no votes were taken and no consensus was reached. So we're on item J12, pending and potential litigation or settlement authority. Dr. Sutherland, we don't have any.
No items. Mhm.
That's right. And second one is a strategy session with respect to potential litigation, personnel, and financial security. Again, no action to take on that, Dr. Sutherland?
That's correct.
Great, we're moving through these fast. J14, LCTCS Chancellor Contract Recommendation.
Recommendation is current contracts will remain in place. This was for board information only. No action is needed.
Thank you. And then item J15 is LCTCS System President Contract Recommendations, and no action will be taken today on this item, pending further discussion by the board in the future. Ready, Mr. Chairman?
At this time, I'd like to reference the updates and encourage board members to review the information provided. Also, I will ask if there's any additional business to come before this board. I'd like to make some announcements. If there's no further business, let me remind you to complete all mandatory LCTCS trainings by December 31. Please let Erica know if you need assistance. Also, at your station, there is some information regarding an Association of Community College Trustees survey that where they're requesting community college trustees to complete. A copy of the survey has been provided along and a QR code that you can use to complete using your mobile device. We'll also have Erica send out the information via email. We encourage each of you to participate in the survey. Please, I am a board member of ACCT. It's a little embarrassing for me if I can't get my board to respond. So I ask you that you please respond. Also, the fall commencement schedule is at your station. Please RSVP. Erica, if you would like to attend any of these ceremonies, I will tell you, it is moving. It's one of the most moving experiences I have. So those of you that have not attended one, especially those that are near your communities, even others that are not, come, and if you don't shed a tear here and there, you know, you are really tough. Also, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, very Happy New Year. I'm excited about this board, the actions that we're undertaking in this new world and environment. So thank you all so very much. It pains me to do this, but is there a motion to adjourn?
For the record, 1 second, Chair Hardy,
right.
there have been no public comments made. I just wanted to make that for the record.
Thank you. That must be on the record. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
No problem. I do have a first motion from Supervisor Mount and a second from Supervisor Johnson. Thank you.
This meeting stands adjourned.
Yeah. Yes, it's where.
So